This video is about how to differentiate, and it's important to answer that question because in the long run we find that most organisations really struggle to ultimately differentiate in a sustainable way. I'm Dr. Robert Yu, one of the founding partners of CapFeather Global, and we're a boutique consultancy that helps companies grow. I want to take you through one approach to differentiation that is the way that we like to do it, but I'm going to start with the three ways that companies would typically differentiate, and ultimately at the end of that we're going to talk about how you can sustainably get your organisation to stand out in the marketplace. Now, when you think about differentiation at the broadest level, there's really only three things that you can do. Option number one won't even seem like differentiation to most of you. It's actually differentiating on the basis of price, and this is normally about price discounting. Option number two is to differentiate on the features of the products or the services that you offer. And option number three is to differentiate the way that you provide an experience to your customers as they research, investigate, buy, consume, and use your services or your products. I want to get started by saying that as a consulting company that works in competitive strategy, we'd argue that price differentiation is generally a mistake because it starts a race to the bottom. It's very difficult to find a basis of cost leadership position in your market that can't ultimately be copied by the rivals that you are facing competition from. So we see so many companies who undertake cost reduction initiatives, particularly digital transformations, in order to be able to get involved in this race to the bottom. The problem is, look at it from the other side of the point of view. You discount your price, your rivals don't go, oh my God, they've discounted the price, we'll happily let them take our customers. What are they forced to do? They're forced to discount price to match, and everyone discounts their price down and down and down and down until nobody else is making any money. So from a system view, even if you can win temporarily, invariably, price discounting is really a mistake. The only time that we'd advocate price discounting makes sense is as a way of enticing a customer to trial, provided that you can make the customer sticky enough later on to stay with you. This, of course, is the basis of why purchasing companies like to tender. They're hoping to pit suppliers against each other into some kind of mini race to the bottom to get more value. So the alternative to that is to work out how to justify why a customer might want to pay more for your product or service. And there's been a lot of work into the last 30 years about trying to use product differentiation and researching service differentiation to see if you can't get an edge. Right? Whether that's in terms of new product development or whether it's in terms of improving your service design. Ultimately, the idea is to match some improved features to produce better benefits for customers. Those benefits are worth paying more from than the lowest level of what a customer might get, and so therefore they choose you more often and they pay more money for your product or service because it's somehow different and better. The challenge with that is that what we've seen over the last 30 years is any product or service feature that you can innovate around that's specifiable tends to be pretty quickly copied by your market. Think about if there's someone in your market who's as powerful as Google or Microsoft. If you look at Microsoft's entire success, they have been pretty much second into every market that they've ever got into. So, small company comes along, builds Lotus 123, right? Mitch Kaplan heads up this organization, invents the spreadsheet. Unbelievably cool piece of software. I love spreadsheets. Microsoft comes along and introduces Excel, which is basically its copy of the features that make the Lotus software different. Lotus doesn't exist anymore, and of course we're all using Excel. Microsoft did this again when it came to Word, replacing WordPerfect with Microsoft Word. And it did it again. Now it's taking Slack out of business because Microsoft Teams essentially reproduces pretty much all of the kind of features and benefits you can get from Slack. Now, if you're going to differentiate in your market, your big problem is that the 900-pound gorilla that's already got the major market share looks at your new services for products and features that you develop. It finds out the ones of those that matter to customer because you already specified them, and then it simply copies them and offers them in its scaled platform cheaper. So ultimately, all of that money that you've invested in a product or service differentiation gets competed away. The problem is the feature part of products and services. If you're going to differentiate your offer around your product or your services, instead of doing it with something that's completely specifiable, do it with something that's much harder to specify. Do it with your experience. Now, this is really important because the experience stuff is the bit that customers can't quite get a handle on. They might talk about some things that make the experience different, but truthfully, it has to do with a feeling that they get from interacting with your company, even though you might largely be offering most of the same thing. One of my favourite examples of this is the Afterpay business. They've picked up millions of users in the last few years, and they invented an absolutely crowded consumer credit market. And you can look at what they did from a feature point of view, which doesn't really make sense. It makes much more sense to look at it from an experience point of view. So what's the core need that Afterpay is serving? It's the same core need that a Visa or a MasterCard or an American Express are serving. I want to buy something, I don't have the cash, but with this card, I can get some really ready credit unsecured to be able to buy something that I want. And if you're a retailer that wants to sell me something, you love selling it to me on credit because I'm more likely to buy something that's more expensive and makes you more money. I'm more likely to repeat purchase, and I'm more likely to decide right now. Okay, so from a retailer's point of view, this is a really great thing. Consumer credit is something they love. Right? Think about what the current generation, who are all Afterpay's customers, have been taught by their parents about credit. They've been taught that credit is like a drug addiction, and it was terrible to get hooked on a balance on your card that you can't ever wean yourself off of. It's really hard if you like buying stuff on credit to go cold turkey. Am I right? So think about what Afterpay did. Afterpay actually offered a credit card that you couldn't get addicted to. Because the way that Afterpay works is, not only do you make the purchase, but you pre-plan when you're going to make the payments. Typically it's 4 payments over a period of months after you bought the purchase. But you pre-lock those in. And not only do you pre-lock those in, but you pre-lock the direct debit in so you can't forget to pay them. Now the whole point of that is to avoid you being hooked on credit forever, and also to stop you having to pay interest. Now think about that, a credit card that wants you to stop paying interest. Go further than that, Afterpay doesn't even give you a card. The retailer just does all of the credit assessment in real time for you straight away to give you the credit that you need. So there is no card that you've got to swap or you can lose or you can give all of that sort of stuff. And you don't have to provide any information other than your desire to make the purchase to be able to get your credit approved. So all of that stuff that you have to go through to get your credit card approved, all of that's about the credit card company wanting you to be able to have a 5 or a 10 or a 20 or a 30 or a 50 or $100,000 limit that you can max out. Afterpay's not trying to approve you for tens of thousands of dollars. Afterpay's trying to approve you for just this one next purchase, and it wants to know that you're prepared to pre-commit 4 times to do that. And they get paid by the retailer for all of those benefits that we talked about further. Now, none of that has to do with a set of credit features. Everything has to do with starting with the experience that that group of customers who are terrified that getting onto credit was like getting onto some kind of drug addiction, and providing a different experience that matched their value set and what they were hoping for. We'd say you shouldn't discount price because you don't want to differentiate on price because it results in a race to the bottom. You shouldn't differentiate on products and features because you're at risk of a 900-pound gorilla coming along and using all of your hard work to innovate the new prices and features and to test them as the proof of what they should develop. They'll be able to copy you way cheaper than you can do it for the first time. What you should do is differentiate on the parts of your experience that create a feeling in your customers, because these are much harder to specify.
Thanks for watching. If you'd like to download a one-pager on how to differentiate, click on the link below. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe to CapFeather's YouTube channel for more content like this.